Assalamualaikum, my name is Laila Wazifa binti Ahmad. My matric number is AAT20203. I will explain about section A, which is demographic information of the entrepreneur and business. For entrepreneur background, Nur Laila binti Hussein, the director of Laila Legacy, has established herself as a prominent figure in Malaysia food and beverage F&B sector. Her business portfolio include notable establishments like Katla Nasi Ulam and Las Palace Coffee House. Nur Laila education background is rooted in accounting, having pursued a diploma at College Professional Mara in Kuantan. Initially, she had a passion for fashion, but her family advised her to choose accounting instead, so she chose accounting. After getting married, she worked with a cosmetic manufacturing company and her husband initiated the business. Over time, she became more involved in managing the business, leveraging her accounting skill to ensure its success. And Mrs. Laila has been actively involved in F&B sector since 2008, when she was just 24 years old. And next, we move to business information. So, Laila Legacy has been operating for 16 years. The business specializes in traditional Malaysian dishes, particularly nasi ulam, and operate 2 restaurants. Initially, Laila Legacy started with just 7 employees, but over the years, it has expanded to employ more than 20 staff members. Each restaurant employs a similar number of employees, while the cafe Las Palace Coffee House operates with fewer staff due to its streamlined operation using QR codes for customer order. This efficient management has allowed Laila Legacy to maintain a strong presence in the market while focusing on providing quality F&B services. Okay, so next we move to business financial information. Laila Legacy has an approximate annual turnover of 4,560,000. As an enterprise, Mrs. Laila files her income tax personally. She manages the financial and transaction records manually, maintaining a daily cash flow and monthly records. These records are used to prepare annual tax submission. To ensure compliance with tax regulation, Mrs. Laila hired an external agency to manage her accounts. This approach helped her stay organized and compliant with financial regulation, allowing her to focus on expanding her business further in the competitive F&B. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, I am Wan Nur Amira Amani. A23, A2433 will present about section B, which is factor influencing entrepreneurs' tax compliance behavior. Next, for attitude toward tax compliance, the first one is tax regulation and requirements for entrepreneurs in Malaysia. Ms. Laila didn't register for GST, but she knows she must follow other business tax like SST. She also knows she must make contribution to SOSO and EPF for her employees. Ms. Laila also aware of available tax incentive for certain sector which could benefit to her business and aware failure to comply with this tax can result in penalties. The second one is how important for entrepreneurs in the sector to comply with tax regulation. Ms. Laila believes that tax compliance is very important for the business and the economy. She understands that tax fund the government and without them it can't function. As an entrepreneur, not following tax rules can lead to penalties and damage the business's reputation. The next part is the personal views about paying tax in business. Ms. Laila said paying tax is a must as a business owner. It can help to create a stable environment for business growth and innovation. Also, paying tax is an investment in both the business and the community. And the last one is what benefit or drawbacks for being tax compliant as an entrepreneur in the F&B sector. For the benefit of being tax compliant is including supporting the country's revenue, avoiding penalties, building a strong reputation and gaining access to tax incentive. It also helps with smooth operation and boost credibility with investor. However, the drawbacks is including higher tax with higher income, cost for accountants, complex regulation and cash flows challenge for small business. Next, we move to the next part, which is subjective norm. Ms. Laila emphasized that tax compliance is important for business success, especially in the F&B industry. She explained that following tax law helps avoid legal issues and ensure long-term sustainability. Ignoring tax or trying to reduce payment may create pressure on others to do the same, despite the risk. She also highlighted a recent law change requiring a TCC to participate in government tenders. Without this certificate, business cannot bid for a contract, making tax compliance even more important. Ms. Laila also suggests that while business owners may not see the immediate need to pay tax, as their business grows and they see loans or tenders, they will realize the importance of staying compliant.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Fajratul Fatihah binti Abdullah and my matrix number is A23A2484. So, I will continue to the second one, which is social pressure from customers, suppliers or family affect the decision to comply with tax obligation. Mrs. Laila noted that some founders might face external pressures related to their tax payments, such as expectation or demands from customers, influence or pressure from suppliers, concerns or involvement from family members. Despite these potential challenges, she personally does not experience any such pressure. She remains confident in her ability to meet all tax obligations. Her approach to tax compliance is characterized by smooth and efficient process. She prioritizes adherence to regulation without external influence affecting her commitment. Okay, let's continue to our next discussion, which is perceived behavioral control, which is the first one is the difficulties with filing or paying tax. As for Mrs. Laila experience, she prioritized preparation by organizing all required documents well in advance of submission deadlines, which is every 6 months. She engaged external agencies to handle calculation and manage accounts on her behalf, acknowledging her limitation in handling these tasks alone. By outsourcing these responsibilities, she simplifies her workload significantly. The agencies provide clear information regarding the amount of tax owed, eliminating confusion or potential complication. The second one is the ability to comply with tax regulation. She ensures all required documents are well organized ahead of submission deadlines. Not only that, she outsources complex tasks to experts, which reducing personal workload. And she received clear information about the amount of tax owed, preventing confusion, which she hired the external agencies. The third one is main obstacle or challenges when trying to comply with tax. She simplifies responsibility by relying on external support and delegates difficult tasks to professionals, avoiding error in calculation. She clearly said that almost nothing that challenged her by trying to comply with tax regulation, which everything was well managed, and she just gave the task to the external agencies. The last one is, it is easy or difficult to access resources that help with tax compliance, which is, she said that it is easy to find or to access the information, which the IRBM website has already provides vital resources for business owners to rely and to understand the documentation requirement and guideline so it definitely so easy for her. She added that the website, which is the IRBM website, also offers access to professional advice, which helping businesses navigate complex tech regulation and stay compliant. Not only that, to stay updated.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurit Niliana binti Muhammad Dahari and my matric number is A23B1356. So we will move to the another section, which is section C. Section C is about awareness and understanding of e-invoice. So I will give a brief explanation about e-invoice. E-invoice is a digital representation of a transaction between supplier and a buyer. E-invoice replace paper or electronic documents such as invoice, credit note, and debit note. And the content of e-invoice will be the same with the traditional document, which is supplier and buyer details, item description, quantity, price excluding tax, and others. Then I will talk about awareness level of Puan Laila about e-invoice. She already know about e-invoice from 3 months ago, but she did not attend the classes that her mentor held the classes because of a personal matter. But she will come to the class held by her mentor to know about current issue and new knowledge, which is like the e-invoice. And also, she also know that when the e-invoice is implemented, the taxpayer will not be able to cheat to the government. So all transaction will be more transparent. The second part is perceived usefulness of e-invoice. So what Puan Laila think is the account will be more organized, because if you forget to record the transaction between supplier or customer, the e-invoice will record the transaction and the transaction will be more transparent because there is no cheat. Last but not least is about perceived ease of use of e-invoice. From her opinion, e-invoice it is a bit inconvenient for small business like her, because when the purchase are not in large quantity, for example, when she want to buy the expenses for her office and the amount in the small amount, she will think that the invoice is a bit inconvenient for her. Thank you. That's all from me.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nik Nurdini Nadahira binti Ni Muhammad Asri. My matric number is A23A2476. I will be presenting about challenges faced in adopting e-invoicing. Okay, there is 5 challenges faced in adopting e-invoicing based on the interview. For the first one is complicated process. Ms. Laila stated that using e-invoice involves many steps and process that can be cumbersome, especially for small business. This is include the need to issue e-invoice through a system set by the Inland Revenue Board, which is IRB, which may not be user-friendly for small business owners who do not have sufficient resource. For the second one is additional workload. The use of invoicing adds to workload, with business owner having to manage more document and process than ever before. This can be challenged for small business who may not have a lot of staff manage this additional task. Okay, for the third one is lack of knowledge of training, because the use of invoicing system may require a higher level of technical knowledge. Ms. Laila also pointed out the skill of knowledge required to use the system effectively, which can lead to difficulties in implementation. Now I will continue for the challenges faced in adopting e-invoice. Okay, For the fourth one is compliance with regulation. There are also concerns about compliance with the regulations set by IRB. Ms. Laila stated that if businesses are not registered for e-invoicing, they may face difficulties in declaring income for previous year, which can be a significant challenge for those who have been operating without this system. Okay, lastly is resource constraints. For small business, investing in an e-invoicing system and training for staff can be challenged in terms of finance and resource. Ms. Laila emphasized that small business may not have the capacity to hire additional employees or invest in the new technology required to comply with the e-invoicing system. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is AAT20203 binti Ahmad. My metric number is AAT20303X, and here is my reflection from the interview with Mrs. Laila, who is the director of Laila Legacy, was really knowledgeable. I learned a lot about how important it is for businesses to follow tax rules if they want to grow. Mrs. Laila explained that paying tax is not just about obeying the law, but is also a way of helping companies to get loans or buy property. Dealing with the technical issue that interrupt our conversation during the interview was one of the challenges. Even it's challenging, but I gained a lot of valuable information. Mrs. Laila shared a new way of managing invoice digitally. She mentioned that while e-invoicing keeps record organized and transparent, it can also reduce the use of staff. This shows that businesses need to adapt to new technologies while managing their costs. One thing that unexpected came up during our conversation was the effect of e-invoicing on small businesses. Mrs. Laila pointed out that big companies find e-invoicing is very useful, but it can be a bit of hassle for a smaller business as it adds an extra step to the sales process. This made me realize that policymakers must think about the different needs of business when making tax rules. Overall, talking to Mrs. Laila helped me to understand the real-life challenges and benefit of tax compliance and invoicing in the F&B industry. It showed me that policymakers have to consider the needs of all business as they conclude policy that are intended to help businesses comply and grow. That's all from me. Thank you.
For my reflection, while working on this assignment, I felt the pressure of preparing for the interview because interacting with others is not something I'm interested in, but I really enjoyed the process. This assignment challenged me to think critically, solve problems, and manage my time effectively, which helped me to grow. The interview also gave me a chance to showcase my strength and practice communication, even though I'm not usually comfortable with it, and feel more confident in my abilities and proud of how I handled to tackle something challenging.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. This is my reflection from the interview. Through the interview, I personally saw that Mrs. Laila is such a responsible business owner, not only to her employee, but also to governments. She clearly understands the importance of tax compliance and its impact. Not only that, the way she managed the financial records also encouraged me to study more about tax. Moreover, she stayed updated with the regulatory changes such as e-invoice. Furthermore, Mrs. Laila also values a proper tax management, which she finds it difficult to do it herself. Because of that, she utilized external agencies for complex tax matters. I realized that Mrs. Laila has perfect mindset as an entrepreneurship. This is because she effectively meet the tax obligation, also demonstrate a proactive approach to a tax preparation. Even though Mrs. Lala is using a sole proprietorship, she keep focusing on creating a relationship with other entrepreneurship and share experience to promote a culture of tax compliance. Thank you.
Then, my reflection on the interview process with Mrs. Laila is when I'm engaging with her long experience, she showed that the importance of discipline in recording transactions, adhering to tax law, and adapting to technologies such as e-invoicing. Because before this, I used to work in private company, but the company didn't care about tax and recording the transaction. But when I entered the company as a general clerk, I need to manage the documentation and give to the professional accounting. But when I searched the documentation, the receipt even didn't print and the ink have disappeared. So it difficult for me to give to the professional accounting when the receipt is the ink of the receipt is disappeared. So after the experience, I advised my coworker to print the receipt if the receipt have arrived to her, because I also have interned in the audit firm, so I understand that the difficulty of accounting if the documentation is not complete. Next is the importance of tax declaration. I know by some entrepreneur will consider that the tax is a burden for them, but the tax is actually help improving financial capacity for needs such as asset purchase. The challenge that I face in interview Puan Lala is technical issues. Technical issue is emerged with the interview with Mrs. Laila. Mrs. Laila has lost connection and we interview her past office hour in the 10 a.m. in the night. So it give a lot of disturbance and a lot of passion. Lastly is about guidance from a mentor or professional consultant greatly help entrepreneur understand complex issues such as taxation. For example, we as a student also need a guidance from a lecturer when doing assignment or when we don't understand about our syllabus. That's all from me. Thank you.
For my reflection based on the assignment and the interview is I have gained a lot of knowledge about importance of compliance tax because it's a responsibility that entrepreneurs cannot ignore. Second, I also learned about the integration of zakat in business because it can be associated with moral and ethical values in business. It also shows the business image. Moreover, it also increased my motivation and awareness regarding payment tax because it will is in obtaining loans or purchasing assets. In conclusion, this reflection encouraged me to appreciate the role of entrepreneurs more in economic and social development. That's all for me. Thank you.